Hello, everybody, and welcome to Ready to Love the Recap. I am your host, Christal Jordan. I have you guys in my den today. This is my favorite place, one of my favorite places because it has all my books, and I thought this would be the perfect place to have this great conversation about Ready to Love. Did you guys get a chance to watch tonight? I hope so. We're going to have a great conversation. We're going to do these every Friday night. And the great thing about this recap will not work unless you all are interactive with us. So I'm going to have a guest on every week that's going to talk a little bit about relationships, and we're going to give our feedback on the show. But it's really important for you guys to interact with us. So we are waiting for Dr. Michelle to log on, and we're going to get all into tonight's episode of Ready to Love. I have Miss Diana here with me. She's here with me. Um, she's going to hang out with me here. So as soon as Dr. Michelle logs on, we're going to get into it. But did you guys see tonight's episode? So we said goodbye to Brian and also to Simone. We actually had Brian on last week. So it looks like every time we have a guest on, they are off. They get voted off the next week. I don't know if that's by design or if that's by coincidence, but we're certainly not the bad luck charm. But you guys can go back on this channel and watch Brian's interview. And after listening and talking to him last week and then watching him on tonight's show, I definitely have a different opinion about him. So I'm going to bring Dr. Michelle in. Welcome. How are you?
I'm good.
Happy Friday to you. Girl, did you get a chance to check it out? Did you just finish watching Ready to Love, right?
I just finished watching. I was taking my notes and everything. So, yes, I just finished watching. There was some moments where I was like, whoa, okay, I didn't see that coming.
And I thought that you would be the perfect guest for this first episode, this first recap, because your book, The Seven Vows, really talks a lot about accountability, right? And I feel like when we're dating, that is one of the areas that we can have good intentions, but a lot of times we do not do a lot of self-introspection and have accountability for our own actions. So let's get into it. Let's talk about tonight's episode. We say goodbye to Brian and goodbye to Simone. And I actually was sad to see Simone go. I feel like I recognize myself in her. I recognize a lot of my friends in Simone. You can see that she has these walls up, right? She's trying to defend herself. She's trying to protect herself. So she's asking all these questions and she's guarding herself, but the guys feel that. And as beautiful as she is, you can see they kind of like are standoffish because she has all this going on that she can't really see herself. So I really hated to see her go, but I did understand why that decision was made. What did you think?
Well, there's a couple of things about Simone. One is that I really respect that she was taking it in. She was taking in the criticism, the constructive, criticism, and she was processing it at a really quick pace,
Yeah.
And I think what it is that because she is an attorney, the approach is for some is a little bit off-putting, because the questions are coming so quick. She's asking the right questions. But I think it also has to deal with the comfortability of that person. Because if you look at the conversation with Rashid, he was more comfortable with it, and she felt like she could be authentic with him, and then the conversation with Edwin, not so much. He could tell he started to shut all the way down,
all the way down. And I think that brings us to another situation. Good evening, Akiva. Thank you so much for joining us. Akiva says, I did not like the way Simone interrogated Edwin in tonight's episode, but she did grow a lot. The interesting thing is Edwin has a lot of barriers and issues as well. And to me, I mean, he seems very open to talk about them, but we see how a lot of the other ladies are not open to dealing with all that he obviously has. He talks a lot about his PTSD from being in the military and then the things that he, witnessed as a police officer. So I think he's like the male version almost of Simone, because he starts talking and the other ladies are like, whoa, whoa, that's a little bit too much. But I like the fact Simone has been one of my favorites. And I'll tell you, because today we saw her again being very accountable, but then a few episodes back, she had a very vulnerable moment where she acknowledged that she didn't feel feminine. She had just, she's kind of let her work and what she does kind of become who she is. And she acknowledged that some of the other ladies, she just didn't feel, she felt, insecure. And I think being able to acknowledge that on camera is huge. I mean, to acknowledge that right there, on the show, and be able to have that understanding of this is what I'm experiencing in real time is admirable.
Yeah, it was a real sisterhood moment. I loved that because they were able to have a very grown conversation and then able to forgive and move forward with the process.
Right.
Going back to Edwin. So, the Self Vows, my book, is just about that, having the tough conversations with yourself. That's the toughest conversation that you will ever have. Is with yourself, right? And so I think that he was opening up to have those tough conversations, going through the process, though. He's going through this process and he's opening up, like with Joy. He's opening up to have the tough conversations. But I think he mentioned that he had only went to one therapy session.
He did.
So I think that has a lot to do with it as well, because who you are is who you show up in the relationship as. So if I'm not ready to be vulnerable, right? Like Joy was saying, I've done a lot of work. So I'm feeling pretty whole here,
Right.
But for him, he has some work to do and working out his own stuff that has nothing to do with the show, with anybody on the show. It's him working out his stuff. And what we hope is that going through the process, that he was able to really not just hear, but really listen to what it was like an echo. That kept happening, with the different people that was saying the same thing.
Absolutely. No, I agree wholeheartedly. Let me ask you this, because I remember in psychology, I took a few psychology classes a long time ago. And I remember the importance of not doing too much self-disclosure too quickly, right? So if you, on a first date, if you're, unleashing all this pain and all this trauma, it can scare the other person off. So what is your suggestion? And I don't know if you have references from your book. I want to get into the book in just a bit, but what is your suggestion when people, all of us have baggage. And I think that's one of the things that we love about Ready to Love is that we see real people dealing with real issues like all of us. And we get a chance to see them navigate dating with those things. They're been divorced, children, past heartbreaks, and all that plays out, throughout the season. But when is the right time to disclose some of those traumas, so that you don't scare the other person off, but that you're also being very upfront and honest about who you are and what you've gone through?
So I am really big on transparency, and I'm also very big on vulnerability. Now, everyone does not have the capacity to that you can be vulnerable, just your open self, right? Another person may not have that capacity to handle that, right? And the way that we find that out is through consistency, right? So transparency, though, I feel like everyone should be transparent, because a lot of times we give that person our representative, they say, right? So you have two people giving each other the representative, and it's working, the chemistry's there until I start being my authentic self. And you start being your authentic self. And then I said, wait, what happened? Right? And nothing really happened. It was just that I started being me. It would be great if people, not saying that you tell everything, because that's not the right thing to do, but that you can show up in authenticity, you know? But if you don't know how to be authentic, then that's going to be pretty impossible to do. Right. But I think when people show up in a lie, right, then you take my choice away. Because had I known the truth about you, I would make a different decision. I wouldn't even be here. We wouldn't have had a second, a third date, none of that if I would have known. So I do think it's unfair to wait like 90 days into the relationship, you know, and say, okay, let me go ahead and drop this big bomb on you, you know. So especially when you're having grown folk relationship, right?
Absolutely. Which we all are trying to do at this point. That's what everybody tuning in and everybody on this show is doing. If you guys are just tuning in, this is Ready to Love, the recap. This is a show that we're going to have every Friday after Ready to Love airs to talk about the show, talk about the issues, talk about the couples. Who are we rooting for? Who are we happy to see go? And all of that. We're going to have different relationship experts on. And today I'm so excited to have Dr. Michelle. We didn't get a chance to get into your bio, so I want to make sure that we talk about exactly who you are. You have a book out. You're an intimacy architect. I love that. That's very good wording there. And author of the Self Vows, which is why I wanted you to come on tonight, because the book talks a lot about, you know, work that you need to do with yourself. And we know that that's important to do before we start to date and interact with other people. So tell us a little bit about your book and what inspired you to do this type of intimacy architecture work.
Well, you know, I wrote a book called The Vows. Now that was for my couples, right? But what I realized is that doing the work with couples all these years, it literally just was an epiphany that, well, you know what the real common denominator is with all of these couples? It's that they haven't taken their own self vows. So we show up and we get married and we say the traditional vows, right? And we extend that to a whole nother person with a whole background, right? But what about to have and to hold from this day forward? Do I have everything about myself? Flaws, the bad, the good, the ugly. Do I own my stuff? Right? So when I take this vow from this day forward, I am accepting all of me to love and to cherish. Well, if you don't even like yourself, if you don't go on dates with yourself, if you don't go to dinner with yourself, if you don't put yourself on your schedule every single day, and you don't make the schedule, but everybody else makes the schedule, we teach people how to treat us. And so when you talk about to love and to cherish, I got to do that for me first. I got to fall so in love with me that I understand what my boundaries are. So when I get into a relationship, then, and it does move to marriage, yes, I can extend that to you because I've already done it to myself. So tough conversations is what the Self Vows is about. It's about having those tough conversations throughout the book. Like there's nothing that we don't talk about in this book. So a lot of people struggle going through the process because every chapter, it really challenges you to do your work because you have exercises. Any client that knows me, they know I love exercises because it's accountability. You can measure your growth. So that's what you're going to find. And you're also going to find some women and some men that have taken the Self Vows and have told a little bit of their story. So you just get a lot in the book. So
okay, well, I want us to talk a little bit more about how those vows, maybe you can give us some from the book, not all of them, because we want people to go and make sure that they get their own copy. Right. Get into a few of those as we go on. Again, this is Ready to Love, the recap. We are talking about tonight's episode of Ready to Love. And I want to ask you about Brian, because I mentioned we had Brian on. He came and
Yes.
great conversation with him. My opinion, and then I want you to let me know what you think. He seems like someone that is a little immature in some ways. All the women definitely picked up on that. And to me, it's like, even though there's editing, if there's a consistent factor that people are saying, you may want to, kind of check that out. He seems to be very genuine to me, because people kept saying, well, maybe he's superficial. He really did like Alex. You could tell he didn't sway. He was very nice to Winter when she kind of made a pass at him, but he really was focused on Alex. But it seemed like he just didn't have maybe the maturity level at this point in his life to deal with really opening up with a woman and really allowing her to get to know him. He's very intelligent, very good looking, bright, but it just seemed like he maybe was afraid to let someone see the real. So him joking and calling himself charming and all these weird words that he's making up, and it's like like he wants to keep the attention off of the real him. Maybe he doesn't feel like he's enough without that. Yeah. That's Christal's diagnosis of Brian.
You did good. You did good. One thing that I would give to Brian is active listening. If he would practice active listening, right? Not hearing, but active listening, I think that it would really make a big difference for him, is to really take it in, right? Have a moment to process it, then acknowledge it, recap what the person said. And then I love this part, because I give it to everybody, and I know it works because it's been working for the last 15 years, is to ask, what can I do to help you? Or what can I do to, change the situation for the positive? Right. So because it's a question, now it's back in the other person's lap of, okay, let me give you the information. Now you got to be ready, though. Right. To take it and say, okay, good information. Sometimes you're not even prepared to do what the person is asking. Maybe you don't even know how to. And it's okay to be honest and to say that. So when you I think what he was doing was he would throw a joke in there, right? Yeah. And so once he did the joke, you could tell Alex was very frustrated. She's like, I'm trying to be vulnerable with you. I told you something that was very important to me, and you kept meeting me with jokes. Nothing wrong with someone having a sense of humor. I love a sense of humor because I love to laugh. But I also think that there's a time for everything, Yeah. And he had plenty of opportunities. From what we see, it seems that he had plenty of opportunities to really navigate differently through that.
Right. Well, even the rest of the guys seem frustrated, a little bit like, we can't get a straight answer, but he didn't seem like he was being evasive on purpose. It seemed like that's just, his automatic go-to is to be funny if he's uncomfortable. Do you think, I love that. Active listening versus hearing. I think that's going to be our focal point for tonight. I love that difference, because how do you know if you are, you can be in a conversation with someone. What are some key points, I guess, for us to be aware of if we're not actually actively listening to our partner or to our friend or to our child? That's important in all types of relationships. So what are some things that we need? Because sometimes you can think you're doing it and the other person may not receive that from you.
Exactly. One of the things that I would really be aware of is that if in your head, you're already formulating what you want to say, and then if you're in a debate, right, you're like, okay, just shut up, because I just want to say what I got to say, because I know that this is going to shut it down. So just shut up, So that's what you're going through in your head. So you're not listening. Okay. The other thing is that when I don't acknowledge or even validation, so that may look like, I heard you say that my jokes make you feel like I'm not really paying attention and like I'm not taking you serious.
Right.
First, I want to say, like, I'm sorry, because that's not my intention at all, you know, or can we start this over, you
Right.
know, or whatever the case may be, you
Right.
know, or even saying, thank you. Thank you for sharing that with me. I really appreciate that. That gives me a better perspective of you. I know that must have been a little difficult for you.
Okay,
So,
I like that. I like
mhm.
that. Those are good tips. There was a point. There was a quote that Anthony said tonight because we saw him kind of trying to figure out, what do I do? I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings. Really good guy, and I love the fact that he's this ex-football player. He's built up, but he's very sensitive and he's very in tune with his emotions. And I think not really he wants to not hurt their feelings more than he wants to be able to show up authentically in his own. But he made a statement about playing football and not being able to having to let go of the play that you just messed up before you're able to actively be able to be successful in something new. And I thought, wow, what a great relationship tip, because so many of us have gone through heartbreak. If you're not in a relationship right now, you have, regardless of where you are in life, you have, it's not necessarily failure, but you've gone through some things that have not worked. So if you take that into the next situation, there's no way to be successful because you're constantly looking at that failure. So I thought that was really a key nugget that he gave when he was talking to Winter, about how he felt. I don't understand why he kept telling both of them that he was not decided between the two, because Tommy said women always want to be chosen, and that's so true. At least, most women that I know, definitely you want to feel like that man is into you. But I did feel a sincerity from him also.
So I think he heard Tommy, but I don't know if it was really active listening, but I loved his analogy because with my singles, right? And married too.
Yeah.
Sometimes I ask them, I says, well, okay, so do you enjoy a three-way relationship? And they are stunned. They're like, my couples are like, wait, what? What do you mean a three-way relationship?
Right.
Right. I'm like, well, it's you and the ex. You're all in the relationship together.
Wow.
So it's a three-way, and sometimes it's a four-way, sometimes it's a five-way relationship, okay? Or sometimes a single person will come to me, and we're having all these conversations. They're ready to settle down. They want to find love, and I said, well, get single first. I am single. They get defensive, but I am single. That's why I'm here, right? And I said, well, no, because you've talked about your two exes the whole entire time. So your heart is not single. Let's get single first. Let it go. Let's move on, into another space in life, right? Take what you learned from that, heal, move on, and then you can be in a real relationship between you and the other person, instead of all these other distractions that's in the relationship. Because people will say, well, my ex did that. Why you can't do that? Well, then why you not with your ex?
There's always a reason. There's always a reason.
Absolutely.
Yes. Well, I want to ask you about Denise. Now, I think, honestly, Dr. Michelle, I'm surprised that Denise continued to make it, because we saw her exhibit, just to me, a very bad attitude, like a negative attitude, right? She did seem, there's a comment here that says she seemed obsessed with, I really would like to see Denise become more confident during this process and not be so obsessed with Adriana. Joy and Winter seem to be handling their shared interest in Jay well. I can say, that's got to be a hard situation to be in, right? Dating and seeing the guy go out with other people. But to me, Denise has consistently showed an attitude that seemed just very defensive and just very defensive. So, but I'm glad to see that she did change that. Kalfani mentioned tonight that he noticed a change in her after they had that conversation. But the change could have been that she started dating Anthony. So she felt better about that. Can I ask your opinion on that, Dr. Michelle? Have you seen that in her character, and do you see growth there, or what do you think is going on with that?
So I was able to see past what was going on in a deeper, space with her, right? So there was definitely no judgment. There was some things I cringed and I said, "Oh, Denise, no,"
Yeah.
and I could see how off-putting that people could perceive her to be. Because even if you go back to the very first episode where Rashid comes, right? He's trying to talk to her and, hey, can I get you, once she was done, he's like, okay, well, let me go and refill your drink. He goes and he comes back, he's handing her the drink. And she didn't even acknowledge him. And then she's like, okay. And then she just, kind of took the drink. And so, and I get it. Again, I understand that there's editing and there's all of that. However, like you said in the beginning, there was a consistent behavior that kept coming up, so the possessiveness in terms of, we're going through a process here. You signed up because you know that we're going to be dating other people. And as you can see, the way that this is playing out, it's really beneficial for you to keep your options open.
That's true.
You are there to, to find love and or at least to find a deep connection. And sometimes you might think it's one person in the beginning, but then, if you open yourself up, you're like, oh my God, I never would have thought that I would have found that connection, So I think that Denise has taken the criticism in, and I think she is definitely attempting to definitely change her behavior, but you're not going to change it in, just being on the show. I don't know how long they're actually there, but you're not going to change it in a short period of time. And I think what it's going to take also is someone in the relationship with her that is willing to go through that process with her. Because here's the other thing. Look, we all have our stuff. And if you are willing to go through the process with me for me to deal with my stuff, right? Then I think that's what relationship is about, right? But I think the problem comes in when you don't listen. I hear you, but then you're still basically just doing the same thing because you're not really focusing on the change. You're not really having those tough conversations with self. So I don't like the word try, I tell people all the time, don't try, just tell me you can't do it. And then that's fine. But I want you to say, you know what, I'm going to actively do that to the best of my ability in whatever capacity that I have. So now I know, okay, I got it, to the best of your ability, and whatever your capacity is, right? So I get it, you can, that can be safe, but you can't really be in a real relationship and say, well, I'll try to do it. It's almost kind of like an excuse, But yeah.
True. That is true. There's a comment that says, I think Denise's possessiveness is based in fear. And I think fear and insecurity kind of go hand in hand.
Yeah.
I love the fact that you're saying, because it's not realistic to think that everyone would stay single completely until they were finished with their own self process, because that's going to keep going. So I love the fact that you're saying you find someone that's willing to go through that process with you.
Yes.
And you guys go through it together. But the key seems to be back to that active listening versus, active
versus just hearing.
Just hearing. Yes. Active listening versus hearing. So, okay. So moving forward, do you have any predictions at this point, Dr. Michelle? Do you have any predictions on the couples that you think will make it to the end?
Oh, after tonight, I don't know,
Yeah.
but maybe Rashid
Mm-hmm.
and oh my gosh, let me look at her name. Adriana. They may make it to the end, and let me tell you why.
Okay.
Rashid genuinely digs her.
He did. Before the show even started.
Before the show, right?
That's a good point.
So I do believe that because it's just something special there.
Yes.
That he has in his heart, for her.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe, and I also think that I see authenticity between them both.
Okay. Okay.
And it's already, he asked her the hard question tonight. He says, "Hey, are you ready to be a stepmom or a bonus mom?" Yeah. And I think that's really important, to people that have children. It's like, yeah, you better be asking that question, and she seems very open, even though she's younger, she does seem very open to starting a family, and that wasn't a deal breaker for her, that he had been married and that he, had a son and so forth. So I don't know. I think maybe.
I could see that. I even think that her attraction to Kalfani, I think she's attracted to his, he's, the muscles and all that.
Yeah.
But their conversation, there's not that chemistry with their conversation. It's kind of like they sit there and they're both very attracted to each other. And we know what that is. That can happen all day. But if you don't have that, if you don't have that chemistry and that substance beyond the attraction, it won't work. So I definitely can see that. I felt like I thought he might have had a chance with Simone though, because I thought they had a real connection. But then when
I thought that was so dope too. I just, if he watches this, I thought it was so dope, Rashid, what you did for Simone on the date, so creative. Like, I love that. And I just wanted to say that because you talked about visual, and you could see beautiful people, all day. You're in Atlanta, I believe, and I'm in California, where there are beautiful people here that you see all day, right? But I think what's really important for people that are dating, and even for people that are couples and or married, is keeping that intellectual intimacy alive. If you have that intellectual intimacy, when things happen in life, like quarantining together, like going through this pandemic, which has been an unbelievable year, right? When you're going through that, intellectual intimacy helps you to still know we connect on our vision, our purpose, oh wow, that philosophy that you have is like, I wouldn't have thought of that, but that's amazing. That's something, to think about. And or just even having a quarantine date of a drive-by of your dreams. Maybe you go to a particular areas, like, yes, I want to live there, I want to do this, and you visualize yourself there, and you guys are both vibing together. I just think that intellectual intimacy is so sexy. Discipline is so sexy. And so I think that's really important. I did see intellectual intimacy though, with a couple of different conversations. And I really did like that, because it wasn't all about the just being visual. It was in the beginning, when they first got there and they saw everybody, it was like, wow.
They're on a resort. Everybody's body is looking this way. So of course it starts that way. I actually thought I liked the Edwin's yoga. I thought that was
that was amazing. Tantric yoga. That was amazing.
It was.
I talk a lot about tantric sex, but I've never seen tantric yoga done in that way. But that touched me in such a deep way. I thought that was amazing. I think everybody should do that. Like
everybody, every couple
yes,
should do tantric yoga.
yes, absolutely, absolutely.
It looked like a very intimate date without taking it a step further. And I think that's why Joy responded the way that she did. She really appreciated that. So, Dr. Michelle, I'm getting questions about, are you single, and are you open to being a bonus mom to someone 14-year-old? Are you married? Are you single? What's your status, Dr. Michelle?
I am actually married. Now, let me tell you something. I married a younger man, and he's not like, I mean, I think I'm a little bitty cougar. I'm not a cougar, or I'm not a lion. I'm a little bit.
Are you a puma? Like a puma?
Maybe a puma. Like, it's 7 years of puma.
7 years. That's a good, that's definitely in the cat family. You're definitely in the big family. But I say go for it. I love that. Yeah.
So what I was gonna say is that I was divorced for 17 years. Okay. So I have my time, to do my work for sure. Right. And I have a 23-year-old who, thank God, she graduated from college. We'll see what happens next. But, so during that time, I just felt like I wanted to just raise her. And I was just really career oriented and all of that. Right. And so literally I was not looking. She went to college. She said, Mom, I think you need to date. Like, I think you need to, get a life, do whatever. Right. So I started dating. And that's what I was doing, Christal. I was dating, okay? And everyone knew that I was dating, okay?
Right.
And so I wasn't looking to settle down, but that's when it comes. And my husband, he just, from the very beginning, I'm telling you, from the first time he met me, he was like, I know what I want. And I was not even trying to check for him because of his age, and he looks young. And I was like, but he was so funny, and he just kept trying to engage me. And he told me, he said, the first week I knew that he had never been married before, no kids. He says, I knew that I wanted you to be my wife. And he didn't take a long time, but in the industry that I'm in, I'm like, oh, well, hold on now. Right. We're gonna have to go through a few assessments here, take this book, take that book, but we had to go through a process, right? And but it had been I was single a long time,
That is a long time. That is a long time. I can relate to that. That's a long time. Well, I love the fact that you are married though. And I think you learn that, especially after going through divorce. For me, I learned that, I'm not listening to anyone else's definition of what my life should be. I'm going to go what makes Christal happy, because you get married young and you think this is supposed to be this way, and you get a little bit older and learn, okay, life does its own thing. I'm going to find my own happy, right? And I'm going to be committed to that. So I love hearing that. And I love also hearing from someone that is married, because it's someone that is doing the work. So when you have an expert on this married, it's a little bit different. I think you can get advice from everyone, but I do like having someone that is married, because they're able to apply things in real time. So they know what's going on right now.
It's an evolution. It's a continued evolution. Again, 2020 has stretched me absolutely in so many different ways. It stretched my husband in so many different ways. It has stretched us in so many different ways, Right. And but we're almost to the end of the year.
We are in the ninth. We are in the middle of the 9th hour. So we are almost there. I know we're getting ready to get out of here. I'm so excited. People are staying on and listening to the entire conversation, which is great. Thank you guys so much for joining this very first Ready to Love recap. I have to mention that I am wearing actually Hourglass which is a clothing line by Shatava Lindsay that was on the first season of Ready to Love.
Yeah.
Yeah, amazing sister.
Beautiful.
Check out her clothing line. It's hourglass.com, I believe. You can look her up on Instagram. She has a line of clothing that she designed for curvy women, and just to celebrate femininity totally. She's amazing. So all you
Love
Ready
it.
to Love followers, definitely go and check her clothing line out. And shouts out to Shatava. Well, Dr. Michelle, thank you so much for joining us for this very first episode of Ready to Love, the recap. Tell people again where they can get your book and all the books that you have out, and then again about the work that you do with couples and singles and people in general.
So you can go to Amazon, and my book, the one that we've been talking about tonight, is called The Self Vows, 7 Vows That Will Change Your Life. If you are a couple and you're married, or you are even thinking about getting married, you can also purchase the vows, and that is on Amazon as well. You can follow me on IG at Michelle_R_Hannah. And on Facebook, you can follow me at Mikel, Mikel, Life Coaching. And I also want to say that we have a Self Vows retreat, and the next one is coming up in March. We have a couple of spots left. And so if you're interested in that, please go to my IGTV. And there are some videos about the Self Vows retreat. It's amazing. And so fingers crossed that we will be able to do this in peace in March.
Hopefully we will all be in peace in March 2021. Again, thank you for that. I want you guys to make sure that you put this down next Friday, 10 o'clock, right back here. We're going to have, we have a former cast member from Ready to Love is going to join in for the discussion. And we also have a male relationship expert that's going to be giving his advice.
Ooh, that'll be good.
We're going to go back and forth. So you guys, please don't miss that. Tune in next Friday. Any last minute comments on tonight's episode? I'm interested to see what happens. I think out of everybody, I'm interested to see what happens with Denise, because I see that there's pain there and how she's dealing with that. And I'm also interested to see Edwin, because I do feel like Edwin has a lot to unpack also. But I really I like him. I think he's genuine, but I think it's going to be interesting if he gets confronted with the fact that he does have a lot that he may not realize, going into this. He may not realize that he needs some more therapy.
Yeah, I think just lastly that you said unpack, and that's a beautiful word. I think that we have to unearth first, meaning we got to dig it up past where it gets uncomfortable. And then once you dig up that stuff in whatever topic you're dealing with, then you have to unpack it. But I agree with you. I think Edwin is a really genuine person. I think Denise is a genuine person. I think she has a beautiful heart. But yes, I want them to do their work.
Yeah. You can't argue with that. Again, thank you, Dr. Michelle. You helped us kick this the right way. Good luck to you. We'll definitely be keeping in touch with you. We may have to come back and check in with you after the top of the year on the rest of this Ready to Love. Get a temperature check with Dr. Michelle.
Oh, that would be great. Thank you so much, Christal. I really appreciate it. You're super duper amazing. And I love everything that you are doing. So amazing.
You. And vice versa. I'm definitely going to get a copy of that book. I'll talk to you about that offline.
Okay.
Thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
We'll see you again. All right.
Okay. Thank you.
So I want to thank you guys again for tuning in. This has been a great kickoff to Ready to Love, the recap. Again, check out Hourglass by our girl, Shatava Lindsay from season 1 of Ready to Love, with that line of clothing for the feminine and curvy women. We'll have to have her come on and talk all about her clothing line and what she has going on now. And we'll have to see if she's found love. I know we're going to have Mike on. We're going to have a lot of different guests from the first 2 seasons. And also, like I said, relationship experts, relationship consultants, and all that good stuff right here on Ready to Love, the recap. All right. So I will see you guys on next Friday. This has been your host, Christal Jordan. I hope that you guys are finding love wherever you are, and I'll see you next time.